With Lee being dead and Kenny gone missing, Christa and Omid are left with the task of looking after Clementine and Duck. How will everyone deal with the revelation that is Christa's pregnancy? We'll be seeing that and more in part 3 of this scenario. We fast forward to season 2, and our group consisting of Omid, Christa, Clem, and Duck are walking through the forest. Assuming Kenny has died too, Duck isn't as happy-go-lucky anymore. He's definitely more aware of his surroundings and isn't as oblivious. This rubs off on Clem, so she isn't dumb enough to leave her gun on the sink. So when that one girl enters the bathroom, Duck has his gun and shakily tells her to leave them alone. However, I don't think he'd shoot her though. Like, yeah, he's matured slightly over this brief time skip, but the girl is unarmed, so they just scare her off. I want to note that he still has that bright aura about him, he's just more survival ready. This means Omid survives this encounter no matter what due to her not having any weapons, so he isn't shot here. The flashback ends when Omid and Christa enter the bathroom and ask what happened to a visibly baffled Duck. He didn't like that. Killing walkers is cool, but drawing his gun on a person, it's different. From here, we cut to the 16 months time skip where Christa and Omid have now had their baby, who's a girl named Genevieve. This was the other name Omid said when they were discussing baby names, so we're going with that. The mood during the campfire would be a lot happier. Also, everyone would still have their weapons. For some reason in canon, Clem and Christa had lost their weapons after the time skip, but that's not happening here. Omid is tending the fire this time and teaching the kids how it's done. They're both enjoying this due to Omid being a fun-loving guy. He tells them to keep the fire lit as he leaves to get more wood. Christa would be insistent on following him, but he tells her to stay with Genevieve and the kids. Naturally, the scavengers find Omid and begin to question him. Our group follows the noise to find Omid being held at gunpoint. You're then given a new option. Since Clem kept her gun over the time skip, you're given the choice to shoot the scavengers or sneak away like normal. If you chose to shoot, she'll do so and Duck will tell him to run, starting the chase scene. If you chose to sneak away, Christa and Clem would begin to quietly argue. Duck also joins, siding with Christa. The bickering would make the baby cry, revealing their hiding spot. Omid tells them to run, and the chase scene starts from there. Regardless, Clem and Duck would stick together and notice Christa running in the opposite direction. Duck wants to go back for her, but he knows they can't once he sees one of the guys behind them. The two kids work together and try to escape. Getting fed up with these kids, the guy grabs Clem and starts inching towards the edge of the cliff, goading Duck to surrender. If your Clem previously had shot one of the scavengers, Duck will take the shot here, remembering what Lee had taught him, to always aim for the head. Unless it's a person, then head or body. He takes a breath and shoots the guy. The scavenger being shot would cause his grip to release and lead to Clem falling into the stream. Upon realizing what he just did, he jumps down trying to save her but ends up falling in as well. If you tried to sneak away, he'd drop his gun, and when the scavenger begins to approach him, he's grabbed and eaten by a walker. More walkers surround them and the kids frantically shoot, not realizing they're making tons of noise. They eventually run out of bullets and end up being backed into a corner where they're teetering on the edge. Inevitably, they fall into the river and wash up on shore. Clem is woken up by Duck, who profusely apologizes for getting them into this mess. You can tell him you're glad he's okay, say it wasn't his fault, or simply hug him, all of which will make him feel better for the moment. However, if Duck didn't shoot the stranger, you can berate him for giving up, to which he won't argue back, knowing why she's upset with him. While searching, Duck will express his uneasiness if he shot the scavenger. Shooting that guy, it's not like his comic books, it's a different feeling, one he didn't like. If Clem shot Lee, she'll empathize with him having been through this feeling before. They still find Sam the dog, and while Clem is searching the campsite, Duck can be heard playing frisbee with him. They share the can of beans, and Sam still bites her on the arm. Duck quickly grabs the knife and stabs the dog in the side, causing it to let go. After putting him down, they leave the campsite and the walkers start to close in. Clem, leaning on Duck for balance, starts to feel woozy as they escape. He asks if she's okay, but there's no response. Realizing she's probably passed out, he tries to keep her standing. However, the walkers knock her over. He takes the knife in an attempt to hold them off, but they inevitably overpower him. Arrows are then fired at the walkers and some get their heads sliced off. This of course is Pete and Luke, who introduce themselves and ask what happened. After noticing the dog bite, Luke drops her and Duck rushes to her side. They ask if she's bitten and Duck confidently says no, telling them it was a dog. When Pete asks where the dog went, he hesitates before telling them he stabbed it. While Pete looks at her arm, Duck glares at Luke. Was this guy really gonna let her die over a dog bite? They take them back to their cabin and Duck helps his friend walk, so no Clementine spills on the way. The cabin group questions who they are and Pete explains. By the way, the thought of Carver sending 2 kids to do recon is even dumber than Clem alone doing it, so this idea is quickly shut down. Duck pleads for the group to try and help his friend, and I honestly think the added person would make them more trusting. Maybe they'd be suspicious if it was Clem and another adult, but it's just 2 kids. Rebecca is still vocal about kicking the kids out though. For some reason, this lady reminded him of Lily. At least she was nice to him. She didn't like strangers or his dad though. Then it hits him. They're strangers. That's why they're so hesitant. He tells them they have no intention to hurt them. In fact, quite the opposite. If they do help, they'd hope to return the favor. Somehow. Carlos walks out and proceeds to look at Clem's arm. I really don't see a reason for them to still be thrown in the shed, so Carlos gives them the benefit of the doubt. They're not fully trusted, but they assume these kids aren't connected to Carver. Luke tells them to go inside and get ready for dinner. While talking to him inside, Sarah walks into the kitchen asking who these people are. Duck takes a liking to her, thinking she's pretty cute. Clem notices this and starts teasing him about it. Luke introduces them saying they're gonna stay here for a while, if they want to. And for those who are thrown off by the age difference between Duck and Sarah, I'm pretty sure he's 2 years older than Clem. So if Clem was canonically 11 in season 2, that means that Duck would be around 13, I'd assume, so that's what we're going to go with. Anyways, you can either agree to stay at the cabin or tell them you're not staying. If you did agree, Sarah will be happy as she gets to make new friends. However, if you said you're leaving, Duck will insist they stay as they don't have anywhere else to go. They don't know where Christa and Omid ran off to, and partially because he likes Sarah, but he doesn't mention that part. Luke apologizes for what happened earlier, and Pete comes in, saying they're gonna go fishing tomorrow. Duck is elated to hear this, as he used to fish with his dad. You know, with Kenny being a whole commercial fisherman and stuff. I thought that was a nice touch to add in. During the night, Clem and Duck sleep on the couches in the living room while everyone else has their normal rooms. The duo accompany Nick and Pete in the morning and are attacked by walkers down at the river. Heat is still bitten on the leg, and you still choose who you want to go after, only this time Duck will suggest they split up, going after the person you don't choose. This is where his first actual task as Robin is really shown, because he's gonna try and help one of these guys depending on your choices. And he's doing this task solo dolo, so no Lee for moral support and no Clementine there to cheer him up. Episode 1 ends the same way it did in canon, however this part is not over yet. If you went after Pete, everything would play out mostly the same for both kids with slight dialogue changes. Same thing happens with Clem going after Nick, however Duck going after Nick is my favorite path as they can both talk about how they lost their mothers. They'd have a heart-to-heart about how they were able to move past it, and this is where a big change would occur. Duck is able to convince Nick to keep going as he's the only other person who can really relate to what he's going through right now. So, Nick will leave with Duck no matter what, and Clem still gets her canon choices with both, depending on who you went with. Clem will return to the cabin alone, like in canon, but if Duck went after Nick, they'll return before she does. Yup, Nick comes back to the cabin with you if Clem went after Pete. After having that bonding moment, I feel like that stubbornness from season 1 would take effect and he wouldn't listen when Nick tells him to run. Regardless though, the adults leave to find Alvin and Luke, and Carlos tells Clem and Duck to distract Sarah before leaving. Another big change occurs here. When Sarah reveals she found a gun, Duck would suggest they teach her how to use it. I mean, look at them, they learned when they were way younger, can't be that hard, right? You can be against this idea, not wanting to anger Carlos, or agree with him. If you agreed with him, they'll both help her, saying whatever advice Lee did in canon. Duck will tell her to aim for the head, and Clem will say a determinate response from season 1. If you were against the idea, Duck will be upset with Clem, asking her why she doesn't want to help their friend. Doesn't she want her to be safe? He takes it upon himself to teach her, although he wouldn't be that great at doing it without Clem's help. So, Sarah learns how to shoot no matter what with Duck's help or with Duck and Clem's help. I feel like this is a cool parallel to what happened in season 1 when Lee trained Duck with or without Kenny's approval. This also serves as a nice bonding moment between them. However, things don't stay happy for long because Carver arrives at the cabin. Everything stays mostly the same with Clem and Duck trying to get him to leave the cabin. The group returns and are told that a suspicious guy showed up. Assuming it was Carver, everyone packs their things and starts to head for the bridge. This is where we're going to end part 3 of this scenario. How did you guys feel about this part? Was there any moment you liked the most? If so, be sure to comment and subscribe, and let's try and hit the like goal from the beginning of the video so I know there's interest for this series. the time of this recording, we're so close to 1K, so let's make it happen, y'all. Honestly, I appreciate every single one of you that like the videos and leave nice comments, but enough yapping. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys next video.